Hi there, you're listening to the Estranged Heart podcast, and I'm your host, Kreed Revere. Welcome back to our returning listeners, and if this is your first time here, thank you for selecting this podcast to listen to. As we begin today's episode, I invite you to grab a cup of coffee or tea, settle in, and listen with an open heart. But first, the regular disclaimer. I am not a licensed therapist or counselor. Nothing within this podcast should be considered or taken as therapy. If you are in need of therapeutic support such as counseling, please seek out a therapist near you. Hi there, we're back for another episode and a few reminders before we get started. The Moving Beyond Family Struggles Summit is coming up this week. My goodness, where did the time go? It will be October the 12th through the 15th. So that will be Thursday through Sunday, I believe, of the coming week. And registration is free for this event. So if you would like to attend, it will be online. And it is by recorded interviews with Yasmin and 30 different estrangement experts. So my suggestion, I've had several people reach out and ask questions along these lines. Do I have to be present to watch the entire thing each and every day? Is it going to be recorded, et cetera, et cetera? And it will be recorded. Well, these are recorded. However, you'll be able to watch the replay for, I believe it's 24 hours after they air, and then they will go away. So my suggestion is, if this is of significant interest to you, is to purchase the recordings. Why am I saying this? It's not to get you to buy something. It's because to sit and listen to 4 days of back-to-back stories about estrangement or advice about estrangement or how to navigate estrangement, etc., is a lot. And for your own mental health and well-being, I highly suggest purchasing the recordings so you can listen to them at your leisure. When you have the space and the time and the ability to sit down and maybe listen to one interview at a time over, one interview a day over the next 30 days or something along those lines. Sometimes too much of a good thing is not a good thing. So consuming and having to be present and listening to all of these interviews is a lot. And for folks who are currently estranged, I think that's asking too much of ourselves to be able to sit and take that in and really take the information in. If we're doing it all 4 days in a row, and for however many interviews per day, I mean, that's a significant period of time. So again, if you would like to register for the event and or purchase the recordings from the event, you're welcome to do so. I have a link in the show notes of this podcast episode. It's also in previous episode show notes as well. It's also on my Instagram link bio there. You can find it there as well. So I hope that you will join us in some form or fashion, whether it's live, quote unquote, next week, or by listening to the recordings. There will be a lot of valuable information. Again, 30 experts on the topic of estrangement and reconciliation. So again, a lot of valuable information. Just please be kind to yourself and take in what you can as you can, and don't push yourself through this. Okay. I'm really seriously, please take care of yourself as you're listening to the summit. And as a reminder, today is the final day of registration for the support group that will start tomorrow for estranged moms. We have not met the minimum required folks for the recently reconciled moms group. So if there's some of you that are interested in that, please feel free to reach out and email me, and I'm happy to have a discussion around that. But the Estranged Mothers group starts tomorrow, Monday, October the 9th, 4 p.m. Pacific time, and that will be via Zoom. So if you're interested in that, please send an email, theestrangedheart@gmail.com, and all of that information will be in the show notes. So I think that is all for today. So let's get into today's episode. Hi, everyone. It's just me today, just a solo episode with me. And I hope that's okay with everyone. Before I dive into today's episode, I wanted to read a couple of quotes that spoke to me in regards to this particular episode and some of the thoughts and feelings I have had over the last couple of weeks. And we'll get into a little more of that as we move on. But for now, the first quote is by Michael Meade. We need inner vision, not just outer sight. And the second is by Rumi. You have to keep breaking your heart until it opens fully. The only heart worth having is a broken heart. What the heart loves is the cure, and what cures the human heart can also help heal a broken world. So these two quotes spoke to me. It's been an interesting week or so that I've had, and it's not from any one thing or anything that is completely like totally out of the ballpark. It's not anything that I haven't already encountered over the years of doing this work. So I'm not entirely sure why it struck me as much as it has this past week, but I wanted to share some of this with you. And I'm hoping that it comes across in a way that shows care and compassion and empathy. It's not meant in any way, shape, or form to judge or to criticize. It's actually, I'm hoping it actually sparks what I talk about often, curiosity, and how we can do things differently. Because what do they say? The definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. So I have been disheartened by comments that I've been reading online, on social media, etc., in other groups, um, from estranged parents. And I know, so don't come for me about this. I know that in estranged or groups for estranged adult children, that some of those children are doing the same things about their parents. But it's been really disheartening to hear and read parents who claim to want their children back in their lives, that they love them and they care about them and they are missing not having them in their life, and at the same time talk disparagingly about those same children. Um, and I know in my heart and intellectually that that kind of talk is coming from a place of hurt and pain. However, the words that we speak carry meaning. And while the other person that is estranged, so if it's a parent talking about their child, while the child may not be present in a group or following somebody on social media or standing in the same room with the parent as they say these words, while they may not be present for that, you are present for that. And so the words that you say about a particular individual, and this doesn't just apply to people who are estranged, it applies to people across the board. If you're in a relationship with anyone, be that partner, life partner, a friend, a neighbor, coworker, employee, store clerk, doesn't matter. The words that we say have impact. And the more that we repeat them, the more that we begin to believe them. Okay. And so I'm asking for us to take a step back and consider the words and the language that we are using when we are talking about, quote unquote, the other person. Okay. So I made a post on social media and I want to share it with you to highlight a couple of different perspectives and what I mean by doing the work, right? So the post that I made, it's a quote by Brene Brown, and it says, "We don't want to be uncomfortable. We want a quick and dirty, quote, how to, end quote, list for happiness. I don't fit that bill. Never have. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to skip over the hard stuff, but it just doesn't work. We don't change, we don't grow, and we don't move forward without the work. If we really want to live a joyful, connected, and meaningful life, we must talk about the things that get in the way." And that's the quote by Brene Brown. And then I added to that, again, on the social media post, "It's hard. It's certainly not glamorous work, yet it is necessary work if we want to heal our broken relationships. And the first step begins with self and looking within. It's challenging at best to understand others if we do not first understand ourselves." And the comments that I received on this particular post regarding this particular quote by Brene Brown um, was mainly from estranged parents. And each of them are quick to jump in and say something along the lines of, "But I've done the work and it's not working." Or, "I've done the work and they still won't talk to me." Or, "I've done the work and it doesn't make any difference. They're not going to talk to me." Or any other variation thereof, right? And I kept coming back to what they were picking up on, I think, is the last sentence of this quote from Brene Brown. If we really want to live a joyful, connected, and meaningful life, we must talk about the things that get in the way. Now, my perspective in posting this was about us, the individual. We must have this conversation with ourselves about things that are getting in our way of healing. I've said it before and I will continue to say it over and over and over and over again. I did my work when my girls estranged from me. I continue to do my work today, even though we have been reconciled for almost, well, 3 and 4 times longer than I was estranged. My girls did not do their work. My mother has not done her work. I did my work. I changed the relationship with myself. And by default, those ripple out effects from the changes that I made with me have changed every other relationship I have in my life. Not just with my girls, not just with my mom. Okay? I think that some people have misconstrued my words. I have never said that if you do the work, you will be reconciled. What I have said is that doing the work is a part of the reconciliation process. I don't know of a parent and adult child who have reconciled where at least one party has not done the work. I don't know of anyone. All of those, my clients who have reconciled with their adult children, my clients have done the work. Maybe their children have, but maybe they haven't. I know it's not the case in all of the reconciliation cases I've been a part of with my clients. The kids, not all of the kids have done their work too. Yet the parents online and throughout social media seem to think that if they do this work, or that I'm saying if you do quote unquote the work, that it's going to bring your kid back. And that's not the case. It's a part of that process. It's a part of what could potentially help to open the door. But yes, a relationship takes two people. If your adult child is not ready to reconcile, they're not going to open the door. I don't care how much work you've done. I don't care if you're standing on your head. I don't care if you're making $1 million, etc. If they're not ready, they are not going to open the door. However, when the time comes that they're the least bit interested in reconciling, I would rather them crack that door open and see the changes that I've made, or at least some of the changes that I've made, than for them to crack the door and I haven't changed at all and think life is the same as it was when they shut the door. Okay? That's what I'm talking about by doing the work. Doing the work is working on ourselves, not working on ourselves for the sole intention of reconciling. It's working on ourselves so that we can have more inner peace. One of the things that I spoke a few moments ago about the comments that I hear from parents who say they've done the work and their kids still won't talk to them. What the comments that I hear from parents who have done the work, really done the work on self, are things along the lines of, I've done the work. It was hard, it was rough, wasn't pleasant, learned all kinds of things about myself. And so I am ready whenever my child is ready to reconcile, if they are ever ready to reconcile. Or I did the work, I'm still doing the work. And I hope and pray that one day I'll have a chance to be able to help my child to see the changes I've made. But if they're not ready, then they're not ready. And I want to give them the time and space for them to take care of what they need to take care of. There's a subtle difference in all of those statements. The people who have really dug in and done the work on themselves, typically with a therapist, they have addressed their childhood traumas. their childhood experiences, their childhood hurts, because all of those things imprint us when we're children, and then we are playing it out on the big stage called adult life down the road. And then really on the grand scheme stage when we have children. And when we've done the work on ourselves, we've learned how to have self compassion for ourselves, which naturally rolls over to everyone else. We've learned how to take responsibility, which naturally rolls over to other people. We've learned how to be accountable, which naturally rolls over to other people. And notice I'm saying other people, I'm not saying to your adult child or to your parent, right? But when we've done that work, we end up with an inner peace that says, I am good with me. I've worked through my hurts and my pains. I have an inner peace that is deeper than any other peace I've ever had in my life. And I'm okay and will be okay whether or not my child returns to my life or not. Notice I did not say I would not be hurt if my child did not return to my life. Okay? This is why language is so important. I know today that if my children estranged from me again, that I would be in deep pain. Yes, absolutely. I also know that I would have what it took within me to continue on with my life without allowing the pain and the hurt to be my focus or to take me under, etc. And that is what doing the work means. So I just want to back up just a minute because I want to talk about what that doing the work means. Because I think that there are different definitions out there. And when I'm talking about doing the work, I am talking about doing the work on self, not on me in order to get A, B, or C, or in order to have so and so do A, B, and C. It doesn't have anything to do with anyone else. Absolutely nothing to do with anyone else. It has everything to do with me. It has everything to do with addressing my hurts and my pains, addressing the needs that I had as a young child that were never addressed by my parents, who, despite loving me and caring for me the only way they knew how, still left me with things I did not receive. It means dealing with those things. And I can see it when I'm talking with clients, when I'm talking with prospective clients. I can see it very clearly when someone, quote unquote, doesn't want to go there, meaning they don't want to get into their own pain, because they'll change the subject. They'll say, yeah, but my kid, blah, 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 blah. Or, yeah, but, what about them? When are they going to do something? Or, yeah, well, what's the point in me doing this if it's not going to bring my kid back? Or something along those lines. The parents that really dive in and do their work have an inner transformation that happens, and people can see it on the outside. Now, does that mean it happens overnight? Absolutely not. Does that mean that it's a, you know, one-time thing, you quote unquote do the work and then it's over and done with and you never have to do it again? Nope, that's not what it means. It's a marathon, just like estrangement is a marathon and not a sprint, right? It it is it's not a quick fix. It's something that takes time, energy, and effort and dedication and focus. We can't be focused about out there. When I was doing my work with my therapist, and I continue to do my work, quote unquote, do the work with my therapist, although it's on different levels at this point in time, right? I've done a lot of healing. And because of that, I don't hold animosity with my parents or my children. I don't talk about them disparagingly. Does it mean I don't get frustrated or I don't ever get sad or any no. I'm human. But it doesn't mean that I dwell on it. And it doesn't mean that I have to throw somebody under the bus, i.e. my mother or my father or my children, in order to quote unquote feel better. Well, if they would just get with the program, if they would just do what I've asked, then none of this would be an issue and we could just all get on with getting on with life. I don't talk like that. What I say is, I'm hurt. And where is this hurt coming from? Okay, it's because somebody said something to me that hurt my feelings. I wonder if there was another time in my life when someone said something similar that laid an imprint for me for that to hurt. And maybe not. Maybe it doesn't go back. Maybe it's just because they hurt my feelings. It's okay to have hurt feelings. It doesn't mean that person is a bad person. It doesn't mean that parent or that adult child is bad because I'm now feeling pain because of what they said or what they did or didn't say or didn't do. I'm able to sit with my feelings. I'm able to allow my feelings to exist without talking down about someone else. And that is the result of doing the work. It's having this inner peace. It's not ruminating. It's about feeling the feelings, allowing them to exist, and in essence, surrendering to those feelings for that moment in time. And then understanding that even with all of that, I'm still worthy of love and belonging. I just might have to get that love and belonging in other ways from other people in this moment in time. Okay. Um, I had an estranged mom who said, when we're in this process of doing the work, we she likened it to, a lifeboat. She said we're seeking the lifeboat with a motor, that can just zoom. We're through it, we've done it, and now we're on the other side and okay, now, everything's good and fine and dandy and it's taken me 3 days. Instead, it's more often like not having that lifeboat, but having a life jacket, and you're floating along and you're trying to figure out, where do I go? How do I do this? You're tired, you get tired, you rest, etc. And the journey takes much longer than 3 days. Or you're in a boat and you don't have a motor, but you have paddles, and it still takes longer. There's not a quick fix for pain. When we can, as I said in the beginning of today's episode with that quote, right? We have to keep breaking our hearts until they're fully opened. And it is in that breaking of the heart that we can find eventually, with proper support and proper, caretaking, either from others and or ourselves, that we can get to the other side of the ocean, even if it's by paddles or a life vest instead of a boat with a motor. And so when I'm making these posts and I'm talking about on this podcast things about doing the work, it is not about all you have to do is go do the work and then you'll be reconciled. That could not be further from the truth. Which, by the way, as a side note, if we want to kind of look at that piece of things, I think it's interesting that our in our pain, our perception of the truth of what I am talking about, people say that well, you're just saying if I just do the work, then I'll be reconciled, when that's not really what I've said. So your pain is skewing fact. So isn't that interesting that parents can go through that as well as adult children? When we are in pain, it can change our perspective on things. It can change the lens. The lens gets dirty and filmy, and we're not able to see clearly what's what. So that's just kind of a side note there, something to chew on. But here in the end, I want to say that fighting fire with fire leaves us in a place where we all have to watch the entire thing burn to the ground. If we are both sides of the fence are saying it's up to the other person to do the work, it's up to them to do all the changing, then sometimes that's not going to work. Now, I know I have said, and I continue to stand by, I believe it is the parent's responsibility to lead the way. I also believe that in order for an adult child to heal, just as with the adult parent, they need to do the work. Eventually, to go back and unearth those hurts and pains with someone who is trained to help them with that, so they can be whole again for their children and the world at large. Again, coming back to that quote that we had earlier, right? What the heart loves is the cure, and what cures the human heart can also help heal a broken world. My world is much brighter, much more, there's more depth and color to my world today than there ever has been in the past. And I attribute that to the estrangement, because that estrangement broke my heart open. And I stepped into it to do the work on me so that I could experience some peace and a depth of joy that I had never known before. And in return, it's had ripple out effects and has healed relationships I have with people, or it has allowed me to let relationships go that are no longer healthy for me. And I understand when we are in pain and we are hurting, it's difficult at best to understand this. I am here to tell you, I would not be standing up here talking on this platform, telling you these things, if I did not have the personal experience to tell you this works. It may not bring your child back. It may not bring that relationship back. But it can bring you to that inner peace that I know every single estranged person is seeking. And that is the value in doing the work. Until next time. This brings this episode to a close. I hope that this time together was time you feel well spent and that you are able to find some takeaway nuggets to help you on your journey, wherever you may be on your estrangement and reconciliation path. If you feel you've received something helpful or positive from this podcast, please consider following us, sharing this podcast with others, leaving a positive review, perhaps entertaining becoming a guest on our show, or following us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok under the same name, The Estranged Heart. As a reminder, there is an online support group on Facebook. If you are a estranged mom who identifies as being spiritual and approaches estrangement with a sense of curiosity rather than blame and judgment, and desire to do inner self-work and reflection, please seek us out. We can be found at facebook.com/estranged mothers support group. And lastly, if you are an estranged parent or an estranged adult child and would like to have your story shared on the podcast, anonymously or not, please reach out to me via email at theestrangedheart@gmail.com.